the Samana Vayu aids the digestive functions in the body. The Apana Vayu aids in functions which eliminate things from the body, such as urine and stool and menstruation and so on and so forth. So it's very important to understand these aspects, so that one, armed with this understanding, can then one take care of one's subtle gross body and subtle body. So in the last verse and today's verse, Lord Kapil there is coming to the point of the whole exercise. But what is the point of the whole exercise? That if one's subtle body and gross body is well, then one has to then concentrate one's thought on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, the wellness of the subtle body and the gross body helps one to focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in his divine purports, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Lord Kapil is specially mentioning the localized aspect. When he says concentrate, focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in this verse he is mentioning on the localized aspect of the Paramatma, aspect of the Absolute Truth. Now, we'll discuss something around, some important points around Paramatma or the Super Soul. The Super Soul is, in one sense, a very beautiful aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Absolute Truth. In fact, it is one aspect where the love of God as the Supreme Father unto all his children comes across. For example, when a child goes to school for the very first time, many of the mothers will validate this, or will agree with this, that when the child goes to school for the very first time, the mother is used to seeing the son or the daughter in front of their eyes all the time. One day, it dawns that now the child has to be on his or her own in a completely alien environment. So when the child goes to school for the very first day, I know in India how it happens, that there is a school bus which comes. I don't know how many schools have school buses, but I believe many schools have. So the school bus comes and the mother drops the child in the school bus. I remember my own first day in the school bus. I was crying and I got off. Then my mother had to take me physically to school. And then what happens is that the mother, still the child is uncomfortable with the whole process. The mother is doubly uncomfortable. Okay. So the mother is always feeling, okay, what has happened to my child? Is my child well? Has my child eaten? And so on and so forth. Has my child got hurt in playing somewhere? So what happens is the mother does not rely only on the school bus. So the mother actually starts following the school bus initially, till she gets complete faith. And then the mother is standing in the school till the bell rings. And then the child is sitting in the bus and then the mother says okay, and then the mother receives the child. So this is the Super Soul aspect, if you take this analogy, is the love of the Supreme Lord. The Lord knows that this soul, my dear child, you have rebelled against me now. And you want to go to a very dangerous place where padam padam vipadam naklesham, where at every step there is danger. So I am not going to leave you alone there to rot. Okay? I am going to come with you. A part of me is going to be always with you, guiding you, protecting you all the time, telling you what are the right things to do. And because you are Tatastha Shakti, you may tend to take your face away from me. But my dear, I am there with you all the time to tell you, no, don't go that direction. I will always be the voice with you, which will tell you, which will inspire you, instruct you to come back into my arms. So this is the love aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of the love aspects of the Lord. So the Paramatma, in one sense, is the escort of the soul in material existence. Canto 11 of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, where after the Uddhava Gita and few other chapters, in the Bhakti Yoga section, there is a beautiful verse which says, Yo antar bahis tanu britam ashubham vidhunvan acharya chaitya vapusa swagatim vyanakti. Which means, my dear Lord, you appear in two features. My Lord, you appear in two features. Externally you appear as the Acharya and internally you appear as the Super Soul. Why? To deliver the embodied living being by directing him on how to return to you. The Lord appears within the heart as the super soul and externally both as the spiritual master and his literary incarnation. The supreme Vedic knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So the spiritual masters, the scriptures and Paramatma all work together to take us back to God. In fact, the Lord also accompanies the soul life after life. So when the soul leaves the body, along with the subtle body, the super soul also comes along with us into our next body. So in that sense, the super soul is even guiding the ghosts, which temporarily are not getting a body for themselves. So it's very important for us to understand how to perceive the super soul, how to understand that the super soul is our true friend. In the Sankhya Yoga section, the various elements of which the body is comprised, they are described. So the super soul is sometimes described as the 26th element. The Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in the 13th chapter, texts 24 and 25, gives some understanding of the importance of the super soul. In the verse, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, one who understands this philosophy, it's important to understand how the material nature works and how the super soul guides us systematically out of this grip of material nature. So Lord Krishna says in 24 and 25, Hey Arjuna, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature, one who understands these dynamics is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So it's very important to understand these dynamics, and that's why Kapil Muni is following that flow, which Lord Krishna is also followed that flow in one sense with Arjuna. In text 25, then Lord Krishna is saying, some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation. So how to now understand the super soul? Some perceive through meditation, others perceive the super soul through the cultivation of knowledge, so dhyana yoga and jnana yoga, and still others through working without fruitive desires, nishkama karma yoga. So the Paramatma can be perceived by all these methods. However, because we are in Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada gives us the practical way by which we can understand the super soul. Srila Prabhupada tells us what is real knowledge, Raja Vidya. So Prabhupada explains that we think that just because we try to gain some control over matter, then we become successful in material life. But Srila Prabhupada says that trying to control matter is ignorance. Because real knowledge is to understand that we are not the controllers of matter, rather we are being controlled by the material elements. Once we understand this, then we will know that we are not independent in this material world, and then the desire for liberation will manifest in our hearts. So the success formula for escaping this material world is to understand that we are not the controllers, and that is the primary role of the Paramatma or the super soul, which accompanies the jiva in this dangerous place called as the material world. Now, His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj has given a very nice story. So we'll discuss this story by which we'll really understand how beautiful this aspect of super soul is. So Maharaj explains the story of a gentleman whose name is John Urban. So this John Urban, he wanted to be a controller. He wanted to enjoy this material world. So what he did was, he visited an aerial city. He thought, in an aerial city, I'll enjoy. Just like for many of us, when we ask what's very favorite to you, they say it's flying. I like flying because I like to see everything from the top. So there is a desire to so John Urban also has a desire to not only view the earthly planet from the top, but he actually wanted to live in an aerial city. So with that inclination, he started his journey of enjoyment. But soon he realized that it didn't give him whatever he wanted. So he said, let me try the aqua city, which is under the water. Let me try that. He did not find much happiness there also. So finally, he came to a very unique city, which was quite advanced and unique. And he started living in this city. And we will find out what this city is. So he started living in this city. This city was, he had heard that this city is a very advanced city. So he came here. Now, the beauty in this city for John Urban was that many people in this city, most people in this city, treated him as their master. And John Urban was very happy because he was getting shelter in this city. Plus, he was getting control in this city. When people respect you, then you have some kind of a control over those people who respect you. Okay. So he was getting shelter, he was getting control, he was getting respect. So he was very happy. So as he was living there very happily, he saw one day that there were some soldiers in the city who were wandering about here and there. These soldiers used to do their daily march past every day. Some soldiers were dressed in black and some soldiers were dressed in white. So one day, John Urban summoned his cabinet, the court assembly if you like, and he wanted to find out what are these soldiers up to. They are marching here and there. Of course, nobody was able to explain to him very clearly what this is. But collectively they came to a decision that whatever it is, these soldiers are dressed in black and white. They add some kind of color to the whole city. So maybe these soldiers, the purpose of these soldiers is to enhance the beauty of this city and to add some spice into the life in that city. Just like when some of the devotees were doing Harinam in London, they were caught and one envious person took them to the court. So in the court, what happened when the judge came and then he saw them, these devotees were dressed in saffron robes. So the judge actually dismissed the whole case and ruled in favor of the devotees, saying that in a dull city like London, these people are adding color to the city. So actually the judge dismissed the whole case. So John Urban had the same logic. He said that these soldiers, they are, of course, that was the real logic of the judge, but John Urban, he was referring to these soldiers who were in black and white. He said they also add color to this city. And everyone had that understanding and they didn't delve too much into the importance of these soldiers. Now the soldiers also served John Urban beautifully. They could even make the weather change for John Urban. They could make the sun hotter, they could take him to scenic places, they could take him to the best restaurants in the city where John Urban could enjoy the way he wanted. So as John Urban was wandering around in his city, enjoying himself, one particular day, he went to a place which was somewhere towards the end of the city, in one corner of the city. He visited there. And when he was walking across, he saw a board in one corner. In that board, it was written, City Academy. It was a university, just like you to go. It's written Monash University. It was written City Academy there. Now, none of the cities that John Urban had visited earlier ever had such a board. He never saw such a university, City Academy. So he was very inquisitive. So he went inside to see what's going on here. And when he went there, he saw a young lady who was doing some work. So, as soon as John Urban saw this young lady, she said, "Hi John, how's it going?" John was kind of shocked. "How come you know my name, who I am? And as soon as I entered, you called me as if you always knew me." She said, No, I've been waiting for you. I'm your friend, John. I have been knowing you since so many cities that you have visited. My name is Buddhi. I take care of City Academy." So as soon as John Urban heard this, he was very pleased. And immediately he asked some questions to this lady Buddhi. He asked some questions about some aspects which he could not understand. One of the questions which was bothering him always, who are these soldiers? These soldiers were 365 in number. So he asked, who are these soldiers? They are such nice people. They supply me whatever I want. They are keeping me so happy. Really, they are completely under my control. So as soon as he mentioned this to this lady Buddhi, Buddhi responded to him saying, sorry, John, I think there's a big flaw in your understanding. These are actually not your soldiers. Neither are these soldiers under your command. These soldiers are part of CTC. What is CTC? Central Time Command. These are under their jurisdiction. You are not their controller. They report to the Central Time Command. And this CTC department has posted them in all the cities. And at the end, these soldiers have been instructed to destroy your city. So Jagannath was very shocked because the behavior of these soldiers, the kind of respect they gave him, he was saying, not possible. This lady seems to be envious. No. Jagannath told this lady, not possible. You are telling me that these soldiers will attack me one day and finish me, and that's what you have been instructed? No, not possible. I know. Whenever I have had some problem, these are the soldiers who have protected me always. How come you are saying that these are my enemies or not my friends? I have complete faith in these soldiers. Maybe you are not my friend. Maybe you are envious. And that's why you want to come in the way of my relationship with these soldiers who are serving me so nicely. And saying so, he left that place immediately. He left the city academy. And he went to another place now. As he was wandering, he came to this place there was a board there called as Meta Forest. So he came to this place. Now this forest was full of dry trees and leaves and twigs which were drying up almost to the point of death. These trees were. They were drying up. Interestingly, as he was wandering through this place, atop one of the trees, he saw a man was sitting. This tree was already drying up, but on top of it was a man was sitting, and he had a water gun in his hand, and he was busy watering the tree from the top. And once he finished watering the tree from the top, he used to climb down. Again, he used to go to another tree and again water the tree from the top. So John Irwin called his guys, hey, come down. What are you doing? He said, I'm watering the tree. He said, it's common sense that if you have to water a tree or nourish a tree, you have to pour the water in the roots. So, as soon as John Irwin explained this to him, that man said, oh, that's the old way of doing things. This is the modern way of doing things. This is what modernism says. As he was evangelizing thoughts of modernism, one tree broke and fell down. As he was speaking this, one tree fell down. Obviously, then one tends to lose one's credibility. But no, this guy was still confident. He says, sometimes there are successes and sometimes there are failures. It's part and parcel of life. One tree falls down, but look at the other trees. I'm watering them so nicely. So are they not standing? So one day, definitely, those trees will become green again as I continue to water these leaves and twigs. One or two, anyway, always dies. So why are you looking at only one or two trees like that? So John Irwin failed to convince them. But having said this to that guy, John Irwin started introspecting and thought about himself. He said, maybe I'm also doing something similar to what this guy is doing. And then questions started coming to John Irwin's mind. What is the root of my own existence? Who made this city? Just like other cities, will this city also get destroyed? So these are the kind of thoughts he had in mind. As if to reinforce his thinking, one day, John Irwin came across a rumor in his kingdom. The rumor was all across the palace, and when he heard this rumor, he was shocked. What was the rumor he heard? He heard that people are talking in his kingdom that he was no longer the king of the city. As soon as he heard this rumor, he got very scared. So he went right back to City Academy to meet that lady once again, who is called as Buddhi. So Miss Buddhi. And Miss Buddhi, when he told this about this rumor, she said, yes, I always knew that. I told you that earlier also. You didn't believe me. So she said, when she said that, then John Laban asked her, but then this is a rumor going on, you also want to know, what should I do? Because I don't want to get kicked out of my own city. I was very happy. So can I not? Please tell me what should I do, next steps? But I'm getting this feeling, I'm pretty sure I'll get kicked out. So fine, tell me something, some way by which I can get some more direction in my life. So she says, there is a friend of mine, Buddhi told him, there is a friend of mine who is staying right in your palace, in one of the chambers. That person is my friend. You go and contact him. So John Laban said, hang on, I know this friend of yours who stays in one of the chambers in my palace. I know this friend. But whenever I go there, there's a lot of light coming out from that room. So therefore I don't feel very comfortable going there. Whenever I go to that chamber, I get this feeling that I am not the controller. So therefore, I don't want to go to that room. I don't feel like going to the room. It gives me this feeling as if I am not the supreme in my palace. So this is very similar to an incident which happened in the Ramayana. Ravana, obviously, out of his lust, he wanted to acquire Sita Devi. So Ravana tried all tricks in the book to win over Sita Devi. So one day, he even went to the extent of creating a illusory head, severed head of Lord Ramachandra. And he went to Sita and said, look, now are you convinced that your husband is dead? Now you can be mine. So, before this, and then obviously Sita was not convinced at all. Because she knew nobody could kill her, Lord Ramachandra. But still, of course, out of sentiment, she was expressing some mood. But, so this was one of the tricks of Ravana. But Mandodari had given another idea before this to Lord Ravana. Yet another idea to approach. She said that doing like this, then you can try this approach. And what was the approach that she gave? She said, instead of the severed head of Lord Ramachandra, why don't you take the form of Lord Ramachandra and go to her? If you take the form of Lord Ramachandra and go to Sita, she will be yours. Because she will see you as Lord Ramachandra and you can enjoy her. So Ravana told Mandodari, do you think I am a fool that I did not think of this idea? This was the first idea I thought of. That I can go take the form of Lord Ramachandra. But then he said, the yogic process of taking somebody's form is that you have to intensely meditate on that form. Then you can take that form. And I tried that. I meditated on the form of Lord Ramachandra. Every time you do that, my lusty tendencies towards Sita goes away. So therefore I stopped going in that direction. I don't want to be enlightened, thinking of Sita as my mother. So every time I get this kind of purification when I think, I don't want that. I want to enjoy. So I have stopped going. So similarly, here was John Urban who was telling Buddhi that this friend of mine who is sitting in the chamber, too much light comes out, too much, somewhere I am thinking not to control. Therefore I have stopped going there. So I could not approach this innermost chamber. So Buddhi told him, don't worry John. You don't know who he is. He is your forgotten true friend. He is not your bogus friend. He is your real friend. He will not exploit you when you go to him. He will not try to take over your kingdom. So, John Urban hears all this. So he understands that there is some friend, but still, he knows that, okay, she has told me he is a real friend, but still that faith is not there. So he goes back to his city and completely forgets and starts enjoying himself yet again in that city. In few days, he found that the soldiers were no more behaving in the way that he wanted. In fact, earlier, if you see, the soldiers are escorting him wherever he wants to go. Whichever city he wants to go, the soldiers used to salute him and open the gates. Many times we also like that, someone saluting us and opening the gate for us. That's called as body corporate fee. The skyscrapers, they charge you for the concierge desk in your own house. In your own apartment basement, there will be somebody sitting there. And then you have to pay through your pockets to get that respect every time you go. So, these soldiers used to open the gates for him every time. But now, they stopped opening the gates for him. And they started telling him, no, sorry, this gate is closed. You can't enter this. So, John Arthur used to go to some other gate, thinking that he can get into the, he can enjoy the city more. And sometimes the soldiers say, sorry, this gate is also stopped right now. Because there are some repairs going on this gate, so you can't go. So one day, he met the commander of these soldiers. And he asked the commander of these soldiers, look, Mr. Commander, initially you used to make way for my enjoyment by opening these gates, but now you are blocking each of these gates one by one. Are you really under me, or are you under someone else's control? Am I your boss, or someone else is your boss? And then the commander told him the same thing which Buddhi told him. He said, we were never yours, we were never under your command, we were simply following the orders of CTC, or the Central Time Command. As soon as he heard this, he was very upset, John Arthur. He came back and he organized a cabinet meeting with his people. He said, let us now attack these soldiers and remove all these soldiers from the city. So tomorrow, all of you come and hear my address. And in his address the next day, he said, dear citizens of my kingdom, this is my city. This is my city. In fact, what to speak of? This is my city. I am this city. And I plan to operate on all your buildings, and I will take control of all these buildings, these gates, and I will ensure that everything is in order. So this is how he started from that point in time addressing the city, eventually leading to his downfall, because the inevitable was to happen. So this is a beautiful allegory, not allegory, what do you call it? Is it allegory? Allegory. Something which is told in a very different way, conveying the truth. So, what is the meaning which His Holiness Jagannath Swami Maharaj so beautifully has mentioned? The city, what does it represent? It represents our body. Who are the soldiers under the control of the Central Time Command? They are our senses. They are our senses. And who is John Urban? We, the soul. The soul which is going through different bodies. Sometimes we took aerial bodies, that of a bird, sometimes we took the body of a fish under the water. And now we have been given a body which has Navadvaram, or 9 gates of pleasure. But with time, or Kal, Central Time Command, each of these gates gets blocked up. The eyes cannot see, the ears cannot hear. This body which used to give us pleasure, to that extent where we thought we are the controllers of our body, it gradually starts giving up on us, on the soul. So, as that happens, we visit not everyone, some people visit the northern part of this body, which is called as the intelligence. What is it? City Academy. Sometimes we visit that. Once in a while, we go there. At least by that, we come to know that the soldiers are getting heavier and heavier on us. So, the Buddhi guides us in this manner. So, when John Urban went to saw this inevitable death, one last time he went back again to Miss Buddhi. This time, Buddhi took him to a lake. She said, you have seen the metaphors, now you have seen your own city anyway. Now I will take you to a lake. So as John Urban goes to that lake, he sees that there are a lot of children who are crying. He could hear children crying on the edge of the lake. So as he goes closer, he sees that on the edge of the lake, he found that there was a mango tree with a lot of beautiful mango fruits atop that tree. But the children could not reach these fruits. So rather what these children were doing, they were seeing a reflection of the fruits of this tree in the lake. So they said, we can't reach up, so they were just go in and try to grab the mango here. So that's what they were trying. They were actually very hungry, these children. And they actually wanted these mangoes, but they were searching for it in the reflection of the water. So when Buddhi showed him this, John Urban contemplated on this and asked the intelligence, asked Buddhi, is the city in which I am living, is that also a reflected city? He asked her. She said yes. Yes, it's a reflected city. Now you go with this understanding and meet your forgotten friend who is in the inner chambers of your palace. Don't think that if you can get over your sense of proprietorship, because when you meet this friend, you will get over your sense of proprietorship. Don't be afraid of that. Don't think that if you get over your sense of proprietorship, you will be unhappy. Go and boldly approach this friend of yours. So this is what in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is also telling in chapter 13, text 24. He says, if you understand him, if you understand the super soul or Paramatma, who is the real enjoyer and controller, you will be released from this city and you will no longer have this anxiety. So this is the story of John Urban and this is the story of Paramatma, who is the friend, who is a real friend. The question comes now, how to meet this friend? How to meet this Paramatma? Now because of ego, false ego and covering, we cannot, with the dint of our own efforts, covered with false ego, we have no chance of meeting this Paramatma, which is what Dr. Kapildev is telling. Meet, focus on the tip of your nose and then meditate on Paramatma. It's very difficult for all of us to do that because we are struggling with our mind. Therefore, how to meet this friend? So therefore, we have been given the process of Bhakti Yoga, which tells us how to meet this friend, which is through the medium of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, through which we can overcome the barriers of meeting this Paramatma. So that is the way of meeting this friend. And what is not the way of meeting this friend? What's the wrong way of meeting this friend? And an example is given of how, after understanding just the principles of Samkhya Yoga, someone tried to meet this Paramatma, having had some realization, part realization. So the example is given of His Grace Gurudas Prabhu, who was Srila Prabhupada's disciple. Gurudas Prabhu used to hear Srila Prabhupada's lecture, very intimate servant of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada often used to lecture. In his lectures, he said, we are not this body. So Gurudas Prabhu said, I am hearing this every now and then. How do I, understand that I am not this body? So Srila Prabhupada said, no, you have to be very confident that you are not this body. So Gurudas Prabhu understood it in a certain way. So he said, okay, I put full faith in these instructions. So what I am going to do is, I am very confident, I am going to tell myself, give self-suggestions to myself. I am not this body, I am not this body, I am not this body. And if I am not this body, then I am going to walk right through that wall. So with this confidence, he started walking. As he started walking, with full confidence when he went, he banged against that wall and he got a bump on his head. Okay. When he got a bump on his head, he said, oh, now I understand. Maybe when Srila Prabhupada says, I am not this body, Srila Prabhupada is not his body. So that was a kind of understanding. So through this kind of a philosophical speculation, one cannot understand the aspect of Paramatma. So we cannot meet this Paramatma directly just by jnana. So we need to find someone, we need to find that person who has broken the barriers and who is allowed entry, who has been allowed entry into the innermost chambers of that palace, who has really understood Paramatma. So we need to go to a Tattvadarshi of that soil, and then that person can tell us how to meet that Paramatma. Another example is given. This is the story of a thief who once went to a palace. This thief wanted to become very wealthy. So once he heard that the king has announced, he has called a meeting where he has called different people. He has called different subjects in his kingdom, specifically the sadhus and the yogis. He has called them. And the king has said that all of you come and I am going to present my beautiful daughter to all of you. And whoever genuinely wants to marry my daughter, he can take my daughter. As simple as that. Not only that, I will provide enough wealth along with my daughter, so you don't have to make money. Now, who wouldn't like this proposition? You are getting a beautiful wife. On top of that, you don't have to go to office on Monday. You have got all the facilities to enjoy. So why not? So this thief heard this advertisement. He saw this and he said, I don't even have to steal. Wealth is coming to me. In Hindi, we say neki or puch. I wanted it and you are inviting me. So definitely, why not? I'll come. Definitely come. But I'll come in the garb of a saintly person, because that was the criteria. The king had invited the sages and the yogis. So here the thief went, but out of his humility, or rather fear, the thief sat behind, because he still couldn't sit with the sages. There's some kind of a disconnect. Just like when you go into a place, you try to sit next to someone where you're comfortable, of your own kind. And the sages and the yogis were not of his kind, so he couldn't even sit with them in the front row. So the sages and yogis occupied the front row. So the king made his proposition. Thank you very much for coming, all of you. Today this is my proposition. This is my beautiful daughter. And he brought a beautiful daughter. And the sages were all looking, the yogis were looking at her. He said, whoever wants to take her, right now she'll come with you, and here is the check. Check, gold coins. Whatever it was. Here is all the wealth. Half the wealth of the kingdom was given along with the wife. Take it. So the sages just were looking at the king very blankly. And then after that they got upset actually with this proposition. They said, you called us here, we thought, we're going to have some nice Krishna Katha. Called us for something very superior. This is the reason you called us. So we are not interested. Thank you for the invitation. So the entire front row was empty. They all left. Then the yogis came. And as they moved, the thief also started moving along with them. Front row. Like that. But he was all the time sitting with them. So the yogis came and the king made his proposition. The yogis also said, no. We thought we were going to talk about self-realization. How is this going to help us in detaching ourselves from this material world? This is not our goal. Maybe it will attract someone else. So we leave. So everyone left. And here was the thief's turn. No obstacles at all. There was nobody claimed it. By the time the thief came into the front row, what happened? He had a change of heart. He said, I have been sitting in these sages and yogis for quite some time. If they are rejecting this beauty of a woman and all this well, certainly they must be having something which is giving them higher happiness. I am a fool that let me go and steal from there. That happiness which they have. That way I will become the most wealthy. Why should I take something which they have rejected? There will be something. So the import of this story is this is what sadhu sangha or association of saintly person does to our consciousness. Initially, we come with all our material desires, even to the temple, even to the congregation. But gradually, as we associate and we hear from these personalities who have nothing to do with material life, we heard, His Holiness Devamrit Swami give an excellent class the other day, completely out of his realizations. We heard yesterday Rajakrishna Prabhu gave such a wonderful class, a highly realized soul. So we heard Urmila Matari, excellent classes. She gave on all this out of their realizations. So constantly associating with these devotees, hearing from them, then gradually even if we come to the temple for the wrong reasons or with a lot of our garbage, then gradually we will get purified and not desire those things which we originally wanted, even devotional life to give us. So gradually they will make us associate with that Paramatma in their heart, who is seated in everyone's heart. So here, coming to the conclusion of today's topic, so here Lord Kapil Dev is instructing Devahuti how to, the process of meditating on the Paramatma by concentrating on the tip of the nose. But for us, what is the process? What do we concentrate? Do we concentrate on the tip of our own nose? Is that the process which Prabhupada gave for Kali Yuga for all of us? Obviously not. So rather, we concentrate on the tip of the toe of the Lord. That is the difference. Rather than concentrating on the tip of the nose, for us, this is the process which is given, which is Bhakti Yoga. Or Dhyana Yoga, which is in Bhakti. Bhakti Yoga has got components of Jnana, Dhyan, Karma, everything. We all know that. I have studied Bhagavad Gita. So it is Yogina Api Sarvesham. You see, this is the highest yoga that we are into. So the sages in Bhagavatam also it is mentioned. Dhyana astita tadgadena manasa pashyanti yogina. Those yogis whose goal is that Paramatma, who are meditating on that, a devotee automatically meditates on that in Bhakti Yoga directly. So we don't have to go to the tip of our nose. So how to meditate in Bhakti Yoga? What is the Bhakti Sutras tell us? The Bhakti Sutras tell us that our meditation should be from the feet, lotus feet of the Lord to the lotus face of the Lord. From the feet to the top. Now, specifically talking about the feet, how to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Some few aspects are mentioned in the Shastras which interested me when I was doing up some reading on this. The feet of the Lord, when we meditate on the feet of the Lord, it breaks our barriers to meet the Lord. So ultimately we have to meet the super soul. So we meditate on the feet of the Lord, which breaks the barriers and takes us to the innermost chambers. Now the feet of the Lord also has got some symbols which aid us in getting detached from material life and in meeting Him. The toe of the Lord, it is mentioned, carries the chakra. It is mentioned that this chakra is the Sudarshan chakra. By meditating on this Sudarshan chakra, all the 6 enemies of the mind, what are the 6 enemies of the mind? Lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, illusion. All these 6 enemies of which capture the mind, they are all destroyed by meditating on the chakra on the lotus feet of the Lord. Then, in the middle finger of this toe, then there is a lotus. First we saw the chakra, now there is a lotus. Now, it is not enough to get rid of the contamination. That is not the goal of Bhakti Yoga. The goal of Bhakti Yoga is not just to become sinless. The goal of Bhakti Yoga is to develop love of Godhead. That is the goal. So therefore, only detachment from the material world is not enough. That's a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. One has to develop attraction to the Lord, and that happens when we meditate on the lotus. Because when the bee-like personality sees the lotus, then spontaneously the bee goes and associates itself with the lotus. So that is the significance of the lotus on the feet of the Lord. The Lord's form, especially this lotus, provides the jiva the eagerness to approach Him. So many times our sadhana slackens because we lose our eagerness to attain Krishna. We see us time and again, at least in my life I noticed that, continue to notice that. I lose my eagerness to see the Lord. And then again after some days, maybe the association of a saintly personality, some lecture by His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj, some other spiritual master, again it re-awakens that. Again we go back. So, the form of the Lord increases our eagerness. But in the past, because of our past conditioning, because of so many sins that we have done in our life, it prevents us from developing this eagerness. So, this lack of eagerness to attain the Lord is like a mountain. It's like a mountain which blocks us from cultivating our eagerness to see the Lord. And that is why the Lord has got a thunderbolt in His feet. through this thunderbolt, what does the thunderbolt do? The thunderbolt cracks this mountain into small dust, which you can pass through that mountain very easily after that. There is no mountain left after that. So a combination of chakra, the lotus, and this thunderbolt enables us to attain the Lord. And there is also gourd in the Lord's lotus feet, if you see. A gourd is something which is a weapon or an instrument by which elephant can be controlled. Okay. And what is this elephant refers to? What is the elephant within us?
Mind.
Our mind. It doesn't move. It's very firm. I want to be like that. Don't give me instructions. No. So that is when the Lord has a gourd in his lotus feet. So buddhi is guiding, but the mind is rebelling. Therefore, when we turn our focus, our attention on the gourd, which is there in the Lord's lotus feet, then that aspect of the rebelling mind is also controlled. So these are some of the aspects of the super soul, and how we saw how the mind works. We saw what is the importance of super soul. We also saw how Lord Kapil is systematically taking his mother through a journey by which he can finally make her meditate on the super soul. And we also saw how in our own lives, because we are practitioners of Bhakti Yoga living in Kali Yoga, what are our acharyas, how our acharyas guided us in terms of how we should be meeting our super soul. So I'll stop here and ask any questions, comments, or corrections. Yes, ma'am.
Last thing first, what's your reference for the progression of our progression through the monks and the lotus feet?
It's a Narada Bhakti Sutra. Narada Bhakti Sutra.
Oh, really? So good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that the cultures were senses, but to me it seems like day and night, because you mentioned there were 365 and under control of time, and senses are only 5, and they're black and white. So to me it also seems like they're day and night.
When I heard this rendition of Radhananda Maharaj's book, the speaker mentioned that the senses under the control of the time, which is probably 365 days in a year, represent collectively these souls. That's what I am. But I haven't read the book myself. Have you read the book of Radhananda?
No, just some from what you said, they were black and white, and there was 365, and they're under control of time, and day and night is under control of time as well. So just of that one, I may be wrong, but that's a very strong inclination to maybe.
Maybe we'll get better understanding by reading the book.
So with this purport, it says that one should concentrate through this. It will say that tip of the nose with half eyes, one should see the form of Supreme Lord. And so this kind of meditation, whether it is still applicable for these dynamics, because we dance and sing kirtan and always our eyes are open, and we don't do this kind of normal, we don't see this kind of practice. It's very rare.
Yeah, so it is, the short answer is it's not practicable. That is what the acharyas have said. Because if you go to the previous verses and see, it is, even in this verse I think it is mentioned. See what is said. When the mind is perfectly purified by this process of yoga, then one should concentrate on the tip of the nose. So we have to ask ourselves, is our mind perfectly purified? No. So that means we have to start this process. So there is a condition for doing this practice. So, I mean, most of us will agree that the struggle is going to continue till the death. And I don't know how many more lifetimes it will take. But so this is not very practical. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given us the this verse of the Acharyas. What is Sarvopadi Vinay Muktam Tat Parakrena Nirmala Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana Mukti. So we don't rely on this. We can't get our mind purified. So the only way of purifying our mind and senses is to dovetail it in the fire of devotional service. So yes, this process is effective, but we don't have the adhikar to follow this process.
body and the subtle body have to be in a proper state so that we can concentrate our mind. But when we have bodily discomforts, in Bhakti Yoga, we have to concentrate on the lotus feet. So how do we take discomforts of the body?
How do we take?
When we have discomforts in our body, in Bhakti Yoga, so how do we deal with this?
Okay. So the brahmacharis in Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir are the best examples of this. Okay. So many of them struggle with poor health, but still, by the guidance of the temple and by the support of the temple, they are going for various, many of the brahmacharis are going for various yoga programs. I know many of them because our Adi Purush Prabhu and myself, we are partners in Keezer training here in South Melbourne. So the brahmacharis try to lead the disciplined life in terms of controlling, in terms of what we take as food and what we eat, what we don't eat. There is a regulation that is being followed. Plus there is exercise. And this is true of many temples. In fact, His Holiness Devamrit Maharaj is one of the best examples of that. Who always, I heard that Maharaj never fails to do his yoga in the morning. Despite his very busy schedule, Maharaj takes care of his health. And that's not because of some bodybuilding or something like that, but because they are self-realized souls who understand that, they understand the importance of taking care of this body and not to abuse this body. Because this is a vehicle for self-realization. So there is a seriousness which is associated with in terms of taking care of the body, which is aligned to that goal of self-realization. So there is no substitute for exercise. Now I am not the right person sitting on the Dasa and telling you, because I myself don't do much of exercise, and I have been chastised by many devotees for not doing that. I am doing some humble attempts, but I am not very disciplined in terms of eating or in terms of exercising. But yes, by associating with such exalted devotees, then at least we kind of get reminded again and again that we have to take care of this body. And taking care of this body is all about what we put in our mouth, what time we eat, what we eat, how much we eat, all that decides. And then how we are we doing some kind of exercise, some asana, some pranayama. Many devotees do that in the congregation. So probably we have to get in touch with them and feel inspired. I am at least the wrong person, I can tell you 100%. I don't do any of that properly. I don't know whether I answered your question.
But my question was, when we are already in pain or with some disease or suffering, and it becomes very difficult to concentrate on the lotus feet of the Lord, because your mind is always dwelling on the body.
On the body,
You're trying to tell your mind that you are not this body or this soul.
Yes.
So in such sense.
Yeah, so the example which I gave was also that. It's not that, so some people do proactively, some people do reactively. For example, I am an example doing reactively, because I have got this knee problem. Therefore, then one day Bhaktivedanta Prabhu and Arjun Saka Prabhu told me that, Jai Prabhu, Janita Prabhu, he told me about this Keezer training. So I said, okay, let me go there. Then I realized that I had to build some strength, otherwise I can't sit like this for a long time. And it starts really hurting. So if we know it reactively, the pain has already started, then we have to go for repair therapy. But if we are proactive, we will not lead ourselves to that indisciplined life which leads us to that point where we are already in pain. Of course, we have to understand that, whether we do exercise or whether we don't do exercise, beyond a point in time, all the gates are going to close one after the other. That is a fact of it. But that is actually not because of abuse, that's because of the natural, the way in which Providence has designed our body. One day it's going to fail. And at that time, we can't do anything about it. We can't. No amount of exercise or yoga or pranayama is going to give us eternality in this world. So at some point in time, some organ will start failing. It is true for the even highest, Ashtanga yogi who is currently living in contemporary life. Maybe somebody will live for 300 years, 400 years, or go to the Himalayas and live for 1,000 years. But, it's said in Bhagavad Gita, Janma, Bhuna, Loka, Punarartha. Everyone has to finally leave this body and then go to some other existence and again take new body and keep coming again. So that we can't prevent. So obviously that is the whole idea of our movement. There is a movement called as Art of Living, which all of us know about, which also teaches pranayama. And our movement is the art of dying. So we are being told how to understand the inevitability of death and then prepare our consciousness, because at that time, Prabhupada's the famous verses, Kaphavata, Pitta, Kantha, Loka. Prabhupada says that at that time when the bile, mucus, everything is rushing out, we will realize that now no amount of yoga, nothing is going to do, nothing is going to work. And at that time, it is said that the pain of death is like so many millions of scorpions biting our body. So at that time, the only prayer is what? That, oh my dear Lord, please remember whatever I did for you when my health was cooperating with me. And now I can't do anything else. The only thing probably that time we can do, is chant the holy name attentively. We cannot, do some, deity worship at that point in time, when our body is not cooperating. But in our mind, at least we can take smarana of the Lord and take the shelter of His feet when leaving the body. So that's the best I think. And it is said that, yes, obviously Prabhupada said that at that time, if you served a Vaishnava nicely in our lifetime, then at that time the Vaishnava's prayers will be delivered. Even if we can't remember in that state the Supreme Personality of God, we will still be delivered. Because the Lord takes into account how we have led our life when we had a healthy body and mind. So we have to build that bank account so it can be used at that time. Spiritual bank account. Somebody will try.
It was similar, because we're told about that links of the yoga system, but then we keep focused on, we need to just prove that we focus our minds in the lotus field of the Lord. So how to integrate that? But I think it just is like
Thank you. Alright, let's stop here. It's 9:15. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki. Prabhupada ki. Jai Jai.